All right, let's bring in Ambassador Alan M. Leventhal. He is the former U.S. ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. You could hear, I don't know if you heard because it was a gaggle of reporters, but there was one reporter who shouted out a question to the president, why are you disrespecting Denmark? The president, as you no doubt heard during his remarks, made some historical allusions to Denmark and the relationship with the United States, specifically around World War II and how the United States protected Denmark. But at one point, the president said, we've done a lot of protecting. We protected Europe during World War II. If it wasn't for the United States, you'd be speaking German and Japanese. But then he pointed out that if the United States had to call on NATO allies for help, that he doesn't believe that they would come to the rescue. But in fact, that's exactly what happened in the wake of 9/11. The only time Article 5 has ever been invoked was after the United States was attacked on September the 11th. So what did you make of the president's remarks surrounding Greenland and why he wants the United States to acquire it?
Well, first of all, I don't think that there's been the appropriate understanding of how strong an ally that Denmark has been to the U.S. They are a founding member of NATO. They have served along the U.S. in Iraq and Afghanistan and suffered egregious losses per capita equal to higher than the U.S. They are stepping up their NATO commitment. They're the fourth largest provider of military support, not per capita, fourth largest, just behind the UK to Ukraine. They understand the threat from Russia in terms of their brutal invasion of Ukraine. So the Danes have been terrific allies, and the Danes will support the U.S. in doing whatever they need to do to provide additional security, additional bases if required, in Greenland, because we already have an existing agreement from 1951. If we want to change it, they would go along with that. So Denmark has also authorized an additional $15 billion of defense spending, a major portion for the Arctic in the past year. So they are stepping up in a significant way.
Ambassador, the president said in his address that the United States alone can protect Greenland. He also talked about agreements with Denmark and past treaties that have allowed American military presence on the island. Can you explain what our relationship is militarily with Greenland and whether the U.S. can still protect it without actually taking it over, or what might be behind the president's argument that the U.S. alone can protect Greenland?
Well, first of all, we have to understand that Denmark, as a founding member of NATO, and Greenland being part of the Kingdom of Denmark, means Greenland is part of the NATO umbrella. If the U.S. were to take action in Greenland, they would be taking action against a NATO member. And I saw earlier Anders Fogh Rasmussen, the former head of NATO, former prime minister from Denmark, talking about that would be the end of NATO. It wouldn't be anything that we know that NATO has been. So that is a draconian and major step. We have an agreement, the U.S., with Denmark to be able to utilize a base, which is Bidufik Space Base. It's less than 1,000 miles from the North Pole. I went there 3 times when I was ambassador. And we have the right under that agreement to add many bases across Greenland. But if we want to change that agreement, the Denmark and Greenland would go along with it. So we have the ability to do, frankly, whatever we want under existing agreements. I do not understand the argument why we cannot provide the security that the U.S. owns, since we have complete flexibility to do whatever we want in Greenland. I would hope in the discussions the president's talking about that we can move forward and work with Denmark and Greenland and get to a conclusion which provides what the U.S. wants. But it will not be an association or making Greenland part of the U.S. The Greenlanders are clear. 80% of them, they want to remain independent. They want their own country.
So, Mr. Ambassador, if the U.S. could protect Greenland with the existing military agreements that we have, what do you think is behind the president's ambition to take over the island?
I can't speak to what's behind his ambition, but I can speak to the reality of what's going to happen in Greenland and the flexibility the U.S. has to provide whatever security arrangements that the U.S. wants. and can also speak to the fact that Denmark is stepping up in a significant way for a country its size in terms of the amount of money they're putting in. And Denmark has also been a tremendous supporter of the U.S. The Prime Minister of Denmark has been, Mette Frederiksen, has been probably there's no stronger advocate for the importance of the transatlantic relationship. And what has concerned me about where we're going, and I hope we're headed off this cliff, is that we have a $1.6 trillion trading relationship between the EU and the U.S. It's the largest on the globe. It represents 5 million American jobs. If we get into a tariff war, those jobs and perhaps many more will be at risk. So I do hope that we will move forward in a constructive way where we can address our security concerns with the Danes and the Greenlanders, and either with the existing agreement or a modified agreement, address all of the security concerns that the U.S. has.
And Mr. Ambassador, quickly before we let you go, you mentioned this 1951 treaty that the United States has between the two countries. So if the president were to invoke that 1951 treaty, is it my understanding then that the United States could pour as many troops into Greenland as they would want to, thereby essentially giving thereby essentially militarily taking over Greenland without actually acquiring it? Do I understand that correctly?
Well, I don't want to say military taking it over. It was still, Greenland's going to be Greenland, an independent country. But what we can do is open additional bases, put more troops in, and provide whatever security arrangements meet our needs. We have the ability within our existing agreement. I don't understand why we're going down this road. I hope we're walking back from it.
Yep.
And because I think the consequences are enormous.
All right, Ambassador Alan M. Leventhal, thank you very much, sir, for your perspective. We appreciate it. Thank you.